At 2:30 a.m. on October 25, 1944, Lieutenant Commander Richard Oney stood atop the bridge of USS Tang in the Taiwan Strait, closely observing the phosphorescent trail left by his final launch torpedo as it curved back toward his vessel. 20 seconds had elapsed since he fired the weapon, which should have been targeting a Japanese transport ship ahead. Instead, the torpedo was making a wide circle through the dark waters, its glowing wake visible against the inky sea. It was heading straight for Tang. Oney had less than 20 seconds to react. He had just launched the 24th and final torpedo during USS Tang's 5th war patrol. Over 5 days of relentless combat, his submarine had sunk more Japanese tonnage than many other boats achieved throughout their entire careers. But now, that last torpedo was malfunctioning, circling back towards the sub. There was nothing Oney could do to stop it. He shouted orders, emergency flank speed, and hard right rudder. The engines of USS Tang roared as the submarine began to accelerate. However, Oney's attempts to outmaneuver his own weapon were futile. The torpedo was closing in rapidly, despite Tang being already at its attack speed. Through his binoculars, Oney watched anxiously as the distance between the malfunctioning torpedo and his sub continued to narrow. He could clearly see the wake approaching and accurately assess its trajectory. He was convinced it would hit. His crew had executed flawlessly, his tactics had succeeded, and his training had proven invaluable. Yet, a single malfunction in equipment or a torpedo failure was about to obliterate the most successful submarine in United States Navy history. Richard O'Neill was 33 years old, born on February 2, 1911, in Dover, New Hampshire. He graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1934 and began his career on surface ships, serving on both the heavy cruiser Chester and the destroyer Poot. However, a pivotal decision came in 1938 when he enrolled at Submarine School in New London, Connecticut. One morning, Scoey. He grasped their mechanics intuitively, how they maneuvered and fought, and what capabilities they possessed. For 4 years, he honed his skills aboard the USS Argonaut. Then, early in 1942, he joined the pre-commissioning crew of a new submarine, Wahoo. Lieutenant Commander Marvin Kennedy led Wahoo's initial 2 patrols as commanding officer. These missions were marked by frustration due to missed torpedoes. Chances were squandered. Kennedy operated with prudence. We will take every reasonable measure to ensure safety, but our primary goal is to destroy enemy shipping. If anyone feels they cannot commit wholeheartedly, speak with the I-Man. I have authorized him to transfer any unwilling individual. No one will ever face repercussions for choosing to stay behind. Morton introduced his first groundbreaking idea even before setting sail. He proposed a revolutionary change in the traditional command structure during attacks. Instead of operating the periscope himself, Morton wanted O'Kane to be responsible for all periscope observations. Morton would oversee the plotting, maintain situational awareness, and handle the conning duties. O'Kane would serve as the eyes, while Morton would act as the brain, a unique arrangement. Typically, no submarine captain relinquished control of the periscope, yet Morton grasped a concept that eluded others. By handing over the periscope to O'Kane, he could keep track of the entire tactical scenario. He could monitor multiple targets, gauge escort movements, compute firing solutions, and devise escape strategies, while simultaneously relying on O'Kane's real-time observations. Morton explained it succinctly. From now on, you'll be my co-approach officer rather than just an assistant. You'll handle all the periscope observations for approaching and attacking targets. O'Kane comprehended immediately. Morton's trust in him was absolute and unprecedented. O'Kane had never been given such a significant responsibility before. He simply replied, "I appreciate your confidence, Captain." This partnership revolutionized submarine warfare. In January 1943, during Wahoo's 3rd patrol, they deployed the new system for the first time. On January 24, he boldly navigated Wahoo into the harbor while submerged. an incredibly risky maneuver that could result in entanglement or being trapped without an escape route. Despite these dangers, Morton felt the element of surprise justified taking such a perilous course. Inside the harbor, they spotted the Japanese destroyer harrowing anchored nearby. Destroyers were designed to counter submarines with their depth charges and superior sonar capabilities, making them formidable opponents. According to conventional wisdom, attacking one was akin to suicide. Nevertheless, Morton gave the order for an assault. O'Kane took charge of the periscope, relaying critical information about harrowing's position and distance. Guided by these reports, Morton guided WWII into firing range. They launched 6 torpedoes, though only one managed to hit its mark. The rest either missed or malfunctioned. Sixth, in a series of attacks hit Harris among the ships. The destroyer split into 2 pieces and sank rapidly. In response, Morton reversed WWII's course and sped out of the harbor without any depth charges or pursuit from the Japanese forces, who were caught off guard. This marked the first time an American submarine managed to infiltrate a fortified harbor, sink a warship, and escape undetected. 2 days later, while patrolling, WWII stumbled upon a convoy consisting of 3 freighters, a tanker, and the troop transport bureau, along with multiple escort vessels. Morton initiated a relentless assault, constantly adjusting his position to maintain an advantageous firing angle. O'Kane coordinated each strike. They began by sinking the tanker, followed by one of the freighters, then targeting and destroying bureau. The transport was packed with Japanese soldiers. As it went down, numerous survivors found themselves floating in lifeboats and rafts on the water's surface. Faced with a strategic decision, Morton ordered WWII to surface and deploy deck guns. His rationale was tactical. Any surviving soldier could potentially resume combat and pose a future threat to American forces. Despite the ethical controversy this action later sparked, Morton saw it as a practical measure during the brutal Pacific War. The truth remains that both sides engaged in harsh tactics throughout this conflict. Upon completing its 3rd patrol, WWII delivered remarkable outcomes, having confirmed and sunk 8 vessels. Commander Dudley Morton and Lieutenant Robert Dwyer O'Kane were hailed as heroes. Admiral Charles Lockwood, the leader of Submarines Pacific, praised WWII as the finest submarine he had ever encountered. Morton exemplified an aggressive commander, while O'Kane excelled as a competent executive officer. Their teamwork was formidable. O'Kane continued to serve on 4 additional patrols with Morton, all of which were successful. WWII's tactics gained legendary status within the submarine community. Other submarines attempted to emulate their methods. However, the key factor was the seamless collaboration between Morton and O'Kane. They trusted each other implicitly, communicated effortlessly, and shared a similar tactical mindset. When Morton spotted an opportunity, O'Kane was already prepared for it. Conversely, when O'Kane made an observation, Morton had already devised a response. Their coordination was impeccable, yet Morton often pushed himself to extremes. During WWII's 7th patrol in October 1943, the submarine navigated through Lapperouse Strait into the Sea of Japan, an area notorious for its perilous conditions. The region was heavily mined and constantly patrolled by Japanese forces, with shallow waters adding to the danger. Despite these risks, Morton sank 4 ships before attempting to leave via the same strait. However, WWII was spotted, and a Japanese patrol aircraft dropped depth charges on her while she was surfaced. Tragically, all 79 men aboard perished, including Captain Morton. O'Kane had been transferred from WWII prior to this mission and was in California overseeing Tang's construction at the time of the loss. Upon learning of WWII's fate, he felt profound grief. Morton had not only mentored him, but also become a close friend who imparted invaluable knowledge about submarine warfare. As O'Kane prepared to take command of his own vessel, he made a solemn vow to emulate Morton's combat tactics and surpass WWII's achievements in sinking enemy ships. When Tang was commissioned on October 15, 1943, O'Kane was determined to apply everything Morton had taught him, while also striving to exceed those lessons. Morton transformed the dynamics between a captain and an executive officer, but O'Kane aimed to revolutionize the entire crew's operations. His approach began with rigorous training for everyone involved, from officers to enlisted personnel, those handling the fire control system, torpedo room staff, and watchstanders. The training was relentless, exhausting, and ongoing. Okane zeroed in on a single skill, periscope work. However, Okane believed that prolonged periscope use was necessary for his crew to develop confidence and expertise. He wanted officers to be adept at recognizing various ship types immediately, estimating ranges with their eyes alone, calculating angles on the bow without instruments, and determining speeds from visual observations. Hours of practice in the conning tower, where he would call officers up to show them silhouettes of Japanese ships, tankers, freighters, destroyers, and escorts. How quickly can you recognize them? What's the estimated speed? What's the bearing? Officers were trained to process information instantly, without any doubt or delay. Okane insisted on flawless performance. If an officer couldn't identify a ship type within 3 seconds, they would continue training until they could. Similarly, if range estimates deviated by more than 200 yards, they practiced extensively until accuracy was consistent. Okane specialized in night surface attacks, a technique he mastered from Morton and refined independently. Morton. While underwater, the sub was less visible but moved slower with limited periscope visibility and tricky maneuvers. In contrast, Okane believed that nighttime surface strikes offered significant advantages: full speed ahead, clear vision, quick turns, and the ability to disrupt convoys directly. Executing these attacks demanded impeccable coordination among crew members who had to act instinctively and adapt rapidly to changing circumstances. Okane ensured his team could carry out a complete surface attack with minimal verbal communication. The radar operator would announce contacts and ranges as needed. The crew in the conning tower charted positions and devised firing strategies. The torpedo room awaited orders to launch torpedoes at any moment. The engine room supplied all available power on request. The diving officer was prepared for immediate submergence if necessary. Everyone operated with flawless coordination. Tang's inaugural patrol in January 1944 put every aspect of Okane's preparations to the test. The designated area included the Caroline and Mariana Islands. Okane felt anxious, as this was his first patrol as commanding officer. All the training he had undergone and everything Morton had instructed him were now being put into action. Would his tactics prove effective? Would his crew excel in their roles? Would Tang achieve success? The outcome arrived on February 17 when Tang's radar detected a convoy consisting of 2 freighters, 5 smaller vessels, and numerous escorts. Okane brought Tang to the surface and positioned it ahead of the approaching convoy, waiting for them to come within range. As the distance narrowed to an attack position, one of the escort ships suddenly turned towards Tang at 7,000 yards and closing rapidly, having spotted them. Okane initiated an emergency dive for Tang, which rapidly descended to greater depths than anticipated by the escort vessel. 5 depth charges were deployed, yet none came perilously close. By diving deeper than expected, Tang evaded detection. Okane then waited patiently before surfacing Tang once more at periscope level when the escort had moved away. The convoy remained in sight and continued its vulnerable journey. Seizing this opportunity, Okane prepared for an attack, provided precise bearings, calculated the firing solution, and launched 4 torpedoes at a freighter within range of mid-100 yards. 3 torpedoes struck their target, causing the Goyotan Maru to break apart and sink stern. First, Tang submerged once again to clear the area before resurfacing and monitoring the convoy's progress until dawn when another assault was initiated. By the conclusion of this initial patrol, Tang had expended all 24 torpedoes, achieving 16 hits that resulted in the sinking of 5 ships with a combined tonnage of 18,000 tons. Okane's rigorous training regimen paid off as his crew demonstrated exceptional performance. Upon returning to Pearl Harbor, Tang was recognized for one of the most successful first patrols during the war. The second patrol saw no combat engagements, but instead involved lifeguard duty near Truk on April 30, 1944, when American carrier aircraft conducted heavy strikes against the island. Several planes were shot down during the operation. The pilots either parachuted into the ocean near the ATL area or crash-landed in the water. Tang was stationed outside the lagoon to assist any aviators who ended up in the sea. O'Kane learned that multiple pilots were stranded in the water and decided to bring Tang to the surface despite facing intense fire from Japanese shore batteries. He utilized his deck guns to neutralize enemy positions, then maneuvered the submarine close to where the downed pilots were located. His crew managed to rescue 22 men from the water, all of whom would likely have perished or been captured if not for Tang's intervention. However, this posed a significant challenge because Tang was not equipped to accommodate such a large number of additional passengers. The submarine originally had a crew of 87 individuals, and now there were 1009 aboard. There were no extra bunks, food supplies, or provisions to support the sudden influx of personnel. O'Kane made a tough decision. He reduced rations by half for everyone on board, including himself. He shared his cabin with the rescued pilots and gave them his bed, opting instead to sleep on the deck. Despite these hardships, Tang successfully navigated the 500-meter journey back to Pearl Harbor while operating on halved rations. Everyone aboard was hungry and cramped, but all 22 rescued pilots returned home safely. Admiral William Halsey expressed his gratitude to O'Kane and his crew personally. The third patrol conducted by the Tang was renowned for its daring exploits. This mission took place in the Yellow and East China Seas, known for their treacherous conditions, shallow waters teeming with mines and patrolled incessantly by Japanese forces. On June 20th, while southwest of Kagoshima, the Tang stumbled upon a colossal convoy. It consisted of 6 large ships escorted by 16 vessels. This was the most heavily fortified convoy that O'Kane had ever encountered. Standard tactical guidelines advised against engaging such well-defended targets due to excessive risk and numerous escort ships. However, O'Kane disregarded these cautionary measures. He waited until nightfall and launched a surface attack directly into the heart of the formation. At 2300 hours, Tang fired its initial salvo of torpedoes, 2 aimed at one ship and 2 at another. All 4 torpedoes struck their marks, resulting in tremendous explosions that illuminated the dark sky. O'Kane launched Tang into the convoy and fired once more. 2 additional hits were registered, followed by 2 more explosions. The convoy was now a scene of pandemonium with burning ships and bewildered escort vessels. Searchlights flickered chaotically across the night sky as Tang continued its assault. O'Kane remained in command, calling out bearings and adjusting course accordingly. Another round of firing ensued, resulting in further hits and detonations. By dawn's light, 4 ships were left sinking. This made her patrol the most successful single submarine mission of World War II, surpassing any other vessel's accomplishments. OK received his 2nd Navy Cross for his outstanding performance, while USS Tang was awarded a Presidential Unit Citation. The entire submarine force was amazed by these achievements and wondered what had set OK apart from others. How did he manage such remarkable success? Other commanders sought to unravel the mystery behind Tang's effectiveness. They meticulously studied her patrol reports and spoke with both Commander OK and his crew members. Consistently, they concluded that 4 key elements contributed to their success: rigorous training, relentless aggression, unmatched speed, and unwavering trust in his team. OK pushed his crew harder than any other commander, attacked more fiercely, navigated at incredible speeds, and completely trusted his men. This combination rendered Tang nearly invincible. During her 4th patrol, which took place from July 31 to September 3, 1944, USS Tang ventured into Japanese home waters off the coast of Honshu. USS Tang ventured in. Each vessel posed a potential danger, and every patrol plane was on the hunt for submarines. Escorts in every harbor stood ready to defend against intruders. O'Kane commanded Tang with meticulous bravery. Opportunities arose and skillfully avoided threats whenever needed. During his tenure, he sank 7 additional ships, used up all available torpedoes, and returned empty-handed. By September 1944, Richard O'Kane had become the most accomplished submarine commander in the Pacific theater. In just 4 patrols, he had sunk 27 vessels, totaling over 90,000 tons of shipping capacity, earning 3 Navy Crosses and a Presidential Unit Citation. Officers coveted serving under O'Kane's command, while enlisted men dreamed of being part of Tang's crew. They had become legends in their own right. However, O'Kane was nearing his limits. 4 war patrols over 9 months, continuous combat and relentless stress had taken their toll. He had lost weight, struggled to sleep, and the strain was evident. His superiors advised him to take some time off. They wanted him to rest and allow another officer to lead Tang during her next patrol. Tang was his ship, his crew, and his responsibility, so he decided to command her on her 5th patrol before considering a break. The mission for the 5th patrol was originally intended to be routine, patrolling the Taiwan Strait to intercept Japanese shipping. But then O'Kane received new orders to join a wolf pack consisting of 4 submarines, with Commander John Coy as the leader. This group would conduct coordinated attacks and provide mutual support, enhancing safety and effectiveness through numbers. Yet, O'Kane refused this directive, preferring to operate alone. He had always worked independently on every patrol and trusted his own abilities and those of his crew. Consequently, he led Tang into the strait by himself once more. On September 24, 1944, Tang set sail from Pearl Harbor and proceeded to Midway Island for refueling before heading towards the Taiwan Strait, an area notorious for its extensive minefields and vigilant patrols. On October 10th, she successfully sank 2 cargo vessels. By October 23rd, Tang intercepted a convoy consisting of 3 tankers, 2 transport ships, 1 freighter, and numerous escort vessels. It was nighttime when O'Kane brought the submarine to the surface and charged directly into the heart of the formation. Due to the proximity, accuracy was guaranteed. Tang launched 8 torpedoes in quick succession, 2 each targeting a tanker, a transport ship, another tanker, and a freighter. All 8 struck their targets, causing massive explosions that engulfed the convoy in flames. One tanker's detonation was so powerful that it shook Tang violently. Navigating around burning vessels while staying ahead of the escorts, suddenly a Japanese destroyer barreled straight towards Tang. The destroyer rapidly approached within ramming distance before suddenly exploding. Either one of Tang's torpedoes hit it, or another Japanese vessel collided with it amidst the chaos. Pieces of the destroyer broke off, sinking swiftly into the depths. Tang then sped away from the scene at full throttle. By now, 5 other ships were also going down. Tang navigated northward out of the Taiwan Strait into deeper waters for a breather. O'Kane allowed his crew to take some rest. They had been on high alert for hours, leaving everyone completely drained. However, he anticipated that more traffic would be found along the shallow Chinese coast, where Japanese convoys often hugged the shoreline. His prediction proved accurate. On October 24th, Tang's radar detected a sizable convoy moving slowly near the coastline late in the evening. Multiple contacts indicated larger vessels were present. O'Kane examined the radar image closely. This was precisely what Tang had hoped to discover. He then ordered his crew to prepare for battle. Tang planned one final surface attack. They still possessed 2 torpedoes, and O'Kane intended to use both of them. The issue wasn't supposed to arise. In 1944, American submarines relied on 2 primary types of torpedoes, the Mark 114 steam torpedo and the Mark 118 electric torpedo. While the Mark 114 was faster with a greater range, it left a visible wake that could be spotted by enemy lookouts. Conversely, the Mark 118 was quieter and produced no wake, making it ideal for night surface attacks. O'Kane favored the Mark 18. The crews on Tang meticulously maintained their weapons. Every torpedo underwent thorough testing, and all systems were rigorously inspected. However, there was a lesser-known flaw with the Mark 18. Under specific circumstances, its guidance system could malfunction, causing the torpedo to initiate a circular run and return toward the submarine that launched it. This had occurred previously. On March 26, 1944, USS Tullaby was sunk by its own torpedo near Palau, with only one survivor out of an 80-man crew. The Navy classified the incident, and few submarine commanders were aware of the details. While most acknowledged that circular runs could occur but believed they were uncommon, O'Kane understood the associated risks well. All submarine captains were informed about these dangers. Standard procedure dictated that after launching torpedoes from the surface, one should immediately crash dive to avoid returning fire. However, O'Kane deviated from this protocol by remaining on deck post-attack. This allowed him to assess the outcomes and monitor his weaponry in action. Maintaining control over the tactical situation was both daring and perilous, yet it proved successful during 5 combat missions. Utilizing O'Kane's strategy, USS Tang managed to sink 33 ships throughout its war patrols. Those identical tactics were now putting him in grave danger. At 30 feet, the torpedo was closing to 20 feet, and O'Kane couldn't tear his eyes away. He witnessed its approach, knowing that every person on the bridge was doing the same. His lookouts, quartermaster, and officer of the deck all saw their demise coming at them at a speed of 46 men apace. Shockwaves ripped through Tang's deck, reducing everything abaft the conning tower to rubble. The torpedo room, after battery, crew quarters, engine rooms, and maneuvering room were obliterated instantly. The 9 men on Tang's bridge were tossed into the sea. O'Kane was lifted and flung sideways by the force of the blast. He hit the water hard, struggling for breath as salt water filled his mouth and nose. Emerging from underwater, he struggled to breathe as panic set in around him. In the pitch-black environment, he could discern the voices of others, men shouting, swimming frantically, and succumbing to the water. Tang was nearby, approximately 50 feet away. Her stern was already submerged, while her bow tilted upwards. The submarine was sinking rapidly. In the forward torpedo room, 30 men were still alive. They had heard the explosion and felt the impact, but remained in the dark about what exactly had transpired. Some speculated that Tang had been attacked with depth charges, while others believed they had been hit by a torpedo. William Liebold, the chief torpedoman's mate, assumed command. He instructed everyone to secure all hatches and began assessing the extent of the flooding. The forward compartments appeared undamaged for now, but the entire aft section was obliterated. Communication with any part of the submarine beyond the control room was severed. It dawned on Liebold that they were isolated, trapped within their rapidly sinking vessel. The sole exit lay upwards. Tang had settled on the ocean floor at a depth of 100 feet. The forward compartments maintained sufficient buoyancy to keep the bow slightly elevated while the stern was firmly embedded in the mud, tilting the vessel at an angle. 30 survivors huddled together in the forward torpedo room, which offered the best structural integrity and resistance against water pressure. Lieutenant Liebold took charge of organizing the crew. They systematically burned classified documents, codebooks, cipher materials, and patrol logs. Any information that could be exploited by Japanese intelligence had to be destroyed. The men worked with precision, knowing their fate was either escape or entombment within the submarine, but they refused to provide any advantage to the enemy. O'Kane floated in the dark waters, having lost his binoculars during the descent. He identified 3 fellow survivors from the bridge: Lieutenant Lawrence Svadkin, officer of the deck, Floyd Cavally, lookout, and Hayes Trucker, helmsman. All 4 out of the 9 men were alive. O'Kane remained unsure about the fate of the other 5. They could have perished from the blast or become submerged and unconscious underwater. They swam towards each other, staying close together. The sea was calm but icy cold, with O'Kane knowing that hypothermia would likely set in within 6 to 8 hours, leading to their demise regardless of any rescue attempts. Above them, Tang had vanished completely within less than a minute. Only debris and floating wreckage remained on the surface along with oil slicks, hiding 78 men who were either dead or near death. On the ocean floor, the surviving crew members faced an arduous struggle for survival. At a depth of odd 80 feet, they were well within range of the malfunction, which was an emergency escape device. Each submariner carried this rubber breathing bag with a mouthpiece and nose clip. By filling it with air from the submarine's pressurized environment, one could slowly ascend while continuously exhaling to prevent lung damage caused by expanding air. Although extensively tested, the malfunction had never been successfully used in combat scenarios. Most crew members lacked trust in its effectiveness due to tales of men suffering ruptured lungs or drowning during ascents from escape trunks. Despite being designed to function properly, there was uncertainty regarding its reliability under real-life conditions. Liebold understood that they had no choice but to attempt an escape. Remaining inside Tang without any air would mean a slow death due to carbon dioxide buildup. With 12 years of experience as a submariner and training on the malfunction, Liebold was familiar with the necessary procedures. However, knowing how to act in theory and executing them under pressure were two different things. He gathered his men and outlined their plan. They would exit through the forward torpedo room's escape trunk, which could only accommodate up to 3 individuals at once. After flooding the trunk and equalizing the pressure, they would open the hatch to the sea and swim individually towards the surface, hoping that the malfunction would function correctly. Unfortunately, Japanese patrol boats soon arrived overhead, searching for any signs of survivors and wreckage to confirm Tang's destruction. They dropped a few depth charges, just enough to ensure that the submarine could not be salvaged. The explosions rattled the hull, causing paint to peel off the walls in the torpedo room and dislodging equipment. A fire broke out in the forward battery compartment due to an electrical malfunction, releasing toxic smoke into the air. The men used extinguishers to combat the fire and managed to get it under control, but the air quality continued to deteriorate. They realized they had no choice but to evacuate. At 0600 hours, 13 individuals started their escape attempt. They entered the escape trunk in groups of 3, flooded the chamber, and equalized pressure. The sudden change in pressure caused their ears to throb painfully as they opened the hatch and seawater rushed in, cold and dark. Each man pushed off one by one, swimming upwards through the pitch-black water. The malfunction worked efficiently. They exhaled continuously as they ascended toward the surface. Some of them made it out alive while others did not survive. Okane had been in the water for 8 hours when he was finally spotted by a Japanese patrol boat as dawn broke. By then, he was barely conscious, suffering from severe hypothermia and disoriented due to the freezing cold. His body temperature had dropped significantly, clouding his judgment. He did not notice the approaching patrol vessel until it came very close. Sailors leaned over the railing and shouted in Japanese. Okane reached out to grab the rope that was thrown to him, but he lacked the strength to climb aboard himself. Instead, they pulled him onto the deck as if hauling a fish. As he lay there, he noticed angry faces staring down at him, recognizing who he was and what Tang had done. The beating began almost instantly with fists, boots, and rifle butts raining down on him without mercy. Around him on the deck, more Americans from Tang's crew were being beaten by the enraged Japanese sailors. Tang managed to sink numerous enemy ships and kill hundreds of their sailors. With the remaining survivors in their hands, they proceeded to exact revenge. A total of 9 crew members from Tang survived, 3 from the bridge and 5 who had escaped from the forward torpedo room. No one could have anticipated such an outcome. Tang was expected to return home victorious and then resume combat operations from Pearl Harbor after undergoing repairs. However, she now lay at the bottom of the Taiwan Strait, a final resting place for 78 submariners. The Japanese brought the survivors ashore first to a local military facility and then to Ofuna, a secret interrogation camp located outside Yokohama. This camp was operated by the Japanese Navy, but wasn't registered with the International Red Cross, meaning it officially didn't exist. There were no prisoner records kept, no Geneva Convention protections applied, and no oversight whatsoever. The purpose of Ofuna was specifically to house high-value prisoners, submarine commanders, pilots, intelligence officers, who possessed information that the Japanese desperately wanted. The methods used during interrogations were systematic and extremely harsh. Okan endured days of questioning, with interrogators asking identical queries each time. How far down can American submarines go? What is their maximum operational depth? And details about fire control systems and torpedo specifications. Despite relentless pressure, Okan remained silent, providing only his name, rank, and serial number. Nothing more. The interrogators subjected him to physical abuse, denied him food and water, and forced him into painful positions for hours on end. But he held firm in his refusal to divulge any information. UBANI ships, Okane saw no reason to assist his captors by revealing secrets that could harm American sailors. The other survivors from the Tang faced similar treatment. All 9 men endured repeated interrogations focused primarily on the diving capability. The Japanese were especially interested in this aspect because their own submarines lacked the ability to dive as deeply as those used by the Americans. The enemy sought to uncover the reason behind their silence regarding American technology. Despite enduring relentless physical abuse, starvation, and psychological torment, the Tang survivors remained tight-lipped. They faced daily beatings and a lack of food, yet continued to support one another without yielding to pressure. The camp typically housed around 120 men, including submariners, pilots, and high-value targets. Guards were known for their deliberate cruelty, administering frequent beatings and providing minimal sustenance, often just a single meal per day with about 600 calories. Consequently, prisoners rapidly lost weight and fell ill due to spreading infections. Medical assistance was virtually non-existent. Those who became sick either recovered on their own or succumbed to their ailments. The Japanese showed little concern for the outcome. Okane witnessed other prisoners wasting away from starvation and eventually dying, witnessing men being battered until they collapsed and others losing all hope and surrendering didn't faze him. He had already endured the sinking of the Tang and 8 harrowing hours in the ocean, proving his resilience. Determined to survive another day, he focused on staying alive with unwavering resolve. To keep his mind sharp, he committed guard schedules, camp layouts, and prisoner positions to memory. Even though he wasn't sure if this information would ever be useful, it provided a purposeful distraction. In late 1944, Okane, along with other Tang survivors, was moved to the Omore POW camp. Was recognized as an official P camp by the International Red Cross. However, its legitimacy did not guarantee humane treatment. Instead, it was notorious within the Japanese prison system for being a punishment facility. The most troublesome and valuable prisoners were sent there, along with those whom the Japanese sought to completely break. Situated on an artificial island in Tokyo Bay connected to the mainland via a bamboo bridge, Omore housed around 600 inmates. By 1945, conditions had worsened significantly. Guards accused the prisoners of causing the bombings and escalated their brutality. Among them was Corporal Mutsuhiro Watanabe, known by inmates as the Bird. He served as the camp's disciplinary officer and was notorious for his sadistic tendencies. Watanabe derived satisfaction from inflicting pain on prisoners, often targeting high-ranking officers and senior personnel specifically. His objective was to crush their dignity. Okane became a prime target due to Watanabe's knowledge of Okane's naval record, particularly the ship he had sunk. The Bird made it his personal mission to break Okane, labeling him #1 prisoner. He subjected Okane to daily beatings and forced him into exhausting labor while denying him food and humiliating him in front of others. His goal was for Okane to succumb, beg, weep, and exhibit signs of weakness. Okane declined to yield. He endured the beating silently and unemotionally, never giving his tormentor any satisfaction. This only infuriated the captor further, intensifying the abuse, yet O'Kane remained unbending in his resolve. His fellow Tang survivors observed him closely, witnessing how he coped with the torture. They were inspired by his resilience, believing that if their leader could endure such suffering, they too could persevere. The atomic bombs had devastated Hiroshima on August 6 and Nagasaki on August 9, while the Soviet Union had entered the conflict. Japanese cities were being destroyed by relentless attacks. Finally, on August 15, Emperor Hirohito declared Japan's surrender. The guards at Omori picked up the broadcast but didn't inform the prisoners right away. However, the inmates sensed that something was amiss. The behavior of the guards shifted noticeably. They became less confrontational and more apprehensive. On August 29, American forces arrived in Omori. Amphibious vehicles crossed Tokyo Bay carrying Marines and sailors fully prepared for combat. The Japanese guards surrendered without resistance. The prisoners were liberated. O'Kane had endured captivity for 10 months, during which he lost over 50 pounds. He was emaciated, bearing numerous bruises, suffering from dysentery, yet he persevered. All 9 surviving crew members of the Tang remained alive after enduring Una and Omore, torture, starvation, and illness. The Navy conducted extensive debriefings with O'Kane, seeking detailed accounts of the Tang's final patrol, including the circular run, the sinking incident, and their escape attempt. Without any documentation, his logs had sunk with the Tang. He relied on his memory along with that of the other survivors to reconstruct these events. This collaborative effort helped piece together the ship's last hours before its demise. The Navy launched an investigation into why the torpedo failed during the critical moment. The team analyzed the Mark 8's design and reviewed past occurrences of circular runs. They determined that a critical flaw existed within the torpedo's gyroscope system, which could cause it to tumble under specific conditions, such as high-speed surface launches. When this occurred, the torpedo would lose control, veering unpredictably in any direction, sometimes even back towards its launch point. Although rare, these incidents posed serious risks. The Navy also scrutinized USS Tang's combat history. Officially credited with sinking 24 ships across 5 patrols, evidence suggested a higher tally. Post-war access to Japanese naval records, shipping logs, convoy data, and loss reports allowed American researchers to verify claims against actual losses. The results were astounding. USS Tang had actually sunk 33 vessels, totaling 116.45 tons. This was the highest number of ships and total tonnage sunk by any U.S. nunk. Submarine. During World War II, Richard Oka, commanding officer of USS Tang, thus became the most successful submarine commander in United States naval history. On March 27, 1946, President Harry Truman presented him with the Medal of Honor at a ceremony held on the White House lawn, where he stood resplendent in his full-dress uniform. Truman announced the citation, which detailed O'Kane's actions on October 23 and 243 and 243 and 223. It highlighted how he had courageously navigated through heavily guarded convoys on the... Despite being under intense fire from multiple directions, O'Kane boldly attacked 3 tankers with devastating results. He found himself surrounded by blazing vessels, including a freighter, transport, and several destroyers, but continued his assault at high speed. This led to the explosion of 1 tanker in flames, the sinking of another transport, and severe damage inflicted upon a destroyer. After expending his remaining torpedoes against the remnants of a formidable convoy, O'Kane's own ship went down. The citation referred to this as an act of conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. For these actions, O'Kane received 3 Navy Crosses and 3 Silver Stars, 7 of America's highest military honors for bravery in combat. This was a remarkable accumulation of accolades. However, O'Kane rarely discussed his medals. When asked about them, he would change the subject to speak instead about his crew. The 78 men who did not return, the 9 survivors, their rigorous training, and the battles they endured, and the price paid for victory. Knee. The camp commandant at Tofuna received a 25-year sentence, while Watanabe from Amori remained undetected. Following the end of the conflict, he went into hiding and remained undetected by American authorities who sought him relentlessly for many years without success. Watanabe resurfaced in Japan during the early 1950s using his real name when the war crimes tribunals had concluded. Okane held various positions, including executive officer on the submarine tender Nereus and commander of Submarine Division 3-2. He attended the Armed Forces Staff College from 1950 to 1951 and was later stationed at the Submarine School in New London, Connecticut, first as an instructor and then as the officer in charge. In July 1953, he achieved the rank of captain and went on to command the submarine tender Sperry. The following year, in June 1954, he assumed leadership of Submarine Squadron 7. From 1955 to 1956, Okane pursued further studies at the Naval War College before joining the Ship Characteristics Board in Washington. At the age of 46 in July 1957, Richard Owain retired from the United States Navy, but was promoted to Rear Admiral on the retired list. He settled into retirement in California and in 1977 published Clear the Bridge, a memoir recounting his war patrols aboard Tang. The book was crafted entirely from memory, which proved remarkably accurate. He provided a thorough account of each patrol. From the strategies and assaults to the training sessions, personnel, triumphs, and setbacks, every aspect was meticulously detailed. Clear the Bridge became a staple in submarine literature. The introduction was penned by Captain Edward Beach, an accomplished submariner and author of Run Silent, Run Deep. Beach emphatically stated that Tang was undoubtedly the finest submarine during the war. He pondered what qualities set Tang apart from others. Okane's book offered insights into these distinguishing factors: bold leadership, rigorous training, prudent risk-taking, and unwavering trust between the commander and crew. In 1987, Okane released WWII, a memoir recounting his tenure as executive officer under Dudley Morton. The book shed light on how Morton transformed submarine tactics by reversing conventional roles, allowing Okane to operate the periscope during attacks, and fostering an environment where Okane could hone his skills and ultimately become a commander. WWII was Morton's vessel, but it also served as Okane's training ground. Everything Okane learned from Morton he later applied to Tang: aggressive maneuvers, night surface assaults, relentless practice sessions, and confidence in subordinates. Tragically, Morton perished when WWII sank. Even during retirement, Okane remained deeply involved with the submarine community. He participated in reunions, addressed graduating officers at submarine schools, and mentored young leaders. His message was consistent: train diligently, trust your crew implicitly, be bold but strategic, and take risks prudently while ensuring thorough preparation. They gathered annually, honoring their fallen comrades and sharing stories about patrols, combat encounters, drills, the sinking of the submarine, and their captivity. He was 83 years old when he died. His funeral took place at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. The inscription on his tombstone includes his rank of Rear Admiral, the dates of his service, and a designation for the Medal of Honor. Hundreds of attendees paid their respects, including submariners, veterans, family members, and fellow servicemen who had served alongside him or been inspired by him. To those who knew him well, it was clear they were bidding farewell to an enduring hero. In 1999, the Navy christened USS Tang, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, in his honor. During the commissioning ceremony, surviving members of the Tang crew were present. Though many had reached their 70s and 80s by then, they stood at attention as Owain's widow officially named the ship. Okane accomplished a feat unmatched by any other submarine commander, sinking an astounding 33 ships, which remains the highest total in American naval history to this day. The Okane Cribbage Board became a revered tradition within the submarine force. Originally used by Morton and Okane on WWII, the board was lost when Tang sank. During one patrol, Morton dealt Okane a perfect 29-point hand, followed by WWII sinking 2 freighters that same night. A few days later, Morton dealt Okane another impressive 28-point hand, while 3 additional ships met their fate. The crew believed the board was imbued with good luck. When Okane took command of Tang, he carried on this cherished tradition. In 1957, when a new submarine named Tang entered service, its crew honored Okane by presenting him with a replacement cribbage board to pay tribute to the original. Upon Okane's death in 1994, that board was passed down to the oldest active fast-attack submarine in the United States Pacific Fleet. When this vessel is decommissioned, the board will be transferred to the next oldest submarine, maintaining its legacy. The board is prominently displayed in the wardroom where officers engage in cribbage games on it. Every submariner who serves on the boat carrying Okane's board becomes familiar with his remarkable story and achievements aboard WWII and Tang. They learn about Morton, the 33 ships sunk, the Medal of Honor awarded to Okane, the circular run, survival tactics, and the enduring legend surrounding him. Despite extensive efforts, Tang's wreckage remains undiscovered in the Taiwan Strait at a depth of approximately 18.8 feet. Its precise location is based on an approximate final position report filed by Tang before sinking. The Taiwan Strait poses significant challenges for exploration due to strained political relations between China and Taiwan, which restrict access. As a result, recovery efforts are improbable, suggesting that the vessel will likely remain undisturbed in its current location indefinitely. It serves as an underwater memorial for 78 crew members who lost their lives. Known as one of the most successful submarines in American naval history, Tang rests where she sank to the ocean floor. Commander Okane's strategic approach revolutionized submarine warfare tactics and became standard practice within the submarine community. His innovative techniques included nighttime surface attacks, forward positioning, boldly interjecting into convoy formations, and leveraging speed and element of surprise to outmaneuver adversaries. While some contemporaries deemed these methods too risky during wartime, their effectiveness was undeniable, with Tang accounting for more sunk vessels than any other submarine. Post-war analysis by the Navy extensively examined Okane's tactical innovations, many of which were subsequently integrated into official doctrine. Training curricula also highlighted the principles demonstrated through Okane's patrols: speed, aggression, precision, and reliance on quick decision-making under pressure. Even today, modern submarine commanders continue to study these operations as exemplars of successful submarine warfare strategies. Okane's legacy remains integral to naval education at academies, submarine training centers, and officer development programs across the military spectrum. This is examined as a study in leadership, tactics, and the cost of innovation. Okane was an exceptional commander who motivated his team to accomplish feats once deemed impossible. Over 9 months, he sank 33 enemy vessels and rescued 22. Despite enduring imprisonment and torture, he went on to receive the Medal of Honor and became America's most decorated submarine captain in history. However, the loss of 78 men due to a malfunctioning torpedo weighed heavily on him for the rest of his days. During retirement interviews, Okane rarely discussed his accolades or its story. Toindid and Pengbai, Wahaues, and Pengbai, Wahaues, and Pengbai, my coal, Wahaues, and Pengbai, Wahaues forces or Fikingbai, Wahaues in Pengbai, and Pengbai, I call my Sikingbai, in Pengbai, Tikingbai, fees, in Pengbai, Kangbai vent numbers with razor-sharp timing. He ventured into dangerous territory where other leaders hesitated. His accomplishments were often deemed unattainable by others. Leaders hesitated. Yet when disaster struck and his own weapon brought down his submarine, he managed to survive. Following this harrowing experience, he endured captivity before returning home. He continued in service and became a mentor for younger generations. He shared the strategies that had proven effective, the training techniques that yielded impressive results, and the leadership qualities that transformed ordinary individuals into exceptional soldiers. If you found this narrative as captivating as we did, please take a moment to like our video. This helps us uncover more overlooked stories from World War II. Subscribe to remain connected with these hidden narratives. Every tale is significant, every story warrants remembrance. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Share where you are viewing this content from. Our community stretches across regions such as Texas and Tasmania, uniting veterans and history aficionados alike. Thank you for watching and helping preserve these important stories.